Amazon is a $4 trillion sleeper, and here's my thesis behind it, guys. When you think of Amazon, right, a lot of people think about Amazon in the aspect of, oh, it's I could buy stuff and have it delivered the next day and all that cool stuff and stuff like that. That's great. But that's not the reason why Amazon is a $2 trillion company right now. It's not because they get you your packages as fast as possible, or you could buy almost anything on their app. If you really look at a retail business like a Walmart, a Costco, those type of business are low margin businesses. I'm a little surprised that Walmart is a $1 trillion company. And when you look at the margins are very low. However, it's just okay for those type of retail businesses to have low margins because that's just the nature of the business. Um, but what Amazon has done is Amazon has turned their come from being a low margin business to you know, 50% gross margins, and that's impressive. That is tech like, margins. And they've been improving their margins for over 20 years. If you go back and you look at their net margins, operating margins, and their gross margins, they've continuously been increasing their margins to reflect more of a tech like company because it is a tech company now. You can't really think of Amazon as a retailer anymore. That's just a little part of their business. Well, not a little part. It's still, I think, close to 35% of their revenue. But where Amazon is really getting their value and really improving on their margins is AWS. AWS is Amazon Web Services. And it's grown over 20% year over year. And the reason why you've seen Amazon jump from, the low 200s to 260 is because the market feels more confident in the acceleration of the growth of their business of the AWS. Amazon is killing it. Amazon is the leader in cloud. And with their investment in data center, I believe that they're going to be one of the leaders as well. So that's why I chose to buy it because I felt like the market was overreacting to great earnings because they said they was going to raise capex. They've done this before. If you look at their history, anytime they raise capex to affect their free cash flow, the company doubled its free cash flow. And I believe they're going to do the same thing. And the reason I believe that this company will be a $4 trillion company is I do believe that the market gets a little too optimistic, and that does play a factor into it. But I do believe that when you look at the characteristics of the companies that are $4 trillion companies, all of them generate over $60 billion in free cash flow. I, based off of my projections, I believe by 2027 or 2028, I believe that Amazon will be, generating anywhere from 70 to $75 billion in free cash flow, maybe even more, because I do believe that we're going to beat the expectations. Another thing is Amazon is going to be the first company to hit $1 trillion. That is something that was not even, seen 20, not even 10 years ago. And now they're projected to hit a trillion in, I believe it's 2028. And that is incredible. And they're projected to hit 2 trillion in the next 10 years. This is something, and like I said, the margins of the business have increased. More they increase their margins, more profit they'll be able to keep. And I believe that I trust in the company's leadership. I They've done an outstanding job with what they're doing with Amazon, and I'm continuing to buy Amazon because that's my thesis behind it being a $4 trillion company, a company that continues to increase its margins. And my estimates are extremely conservative. When you have a company that's making $700 billion in revenue, them taking 10% of that in net profit, it's over $70 billion. There's not many companies in the stock market making $70 billion. And when they get to a trillion, let's say, for example, in 2028, when they get to a trillion, let's say they improve their net margins by just 2%. Now, taking 12% net profit off of $1 trillion, that's over $100 billion. And if they can convert at least 70 to 80% of that into free cash flow, and they have done a great job in the past of converting free cash flow, I mean, converting their net income into free cash flow. However, I cannot say that it will, be the same case because their business is continuing to change. It's continuing to change as we speak. We don't even know what the maintenance and the capex is going to look at. I doubt it's going to be elevated at these levels, but we don't really know what the capex is going to look like when they choose to stop spending as much, and they're just maintaining what they have. But I believe that the management team wouldn't, invest so much into something that they don't know that they're gonna make ridiculous amount of profit. I can't wait to see what the company does. I believe it's a $4 trillion company just based off of the characteristics that we talked about. I think we should still be buying a little bit, less. I think you should have been buying heavy when it was in the low 210s. Um, but I think we should continue to buy here, in my opinion. I'm going to continue to buy because I do believe this will be a $4 trillion company. I did talk about that in my portfolio. I definitely saw it get into 3 trillion, but now that the market is so optimistic because of what the CEO said, I believe that this will get to 4 trillion by the end of this year. It's easy, and we've seen it. We've seen it in the past so many times. We saw Apple have a terrible narrative and go from 2 trillion to 4 trillion in really a couple of weeks. We saw same thing with Google. After the doubts on Google disappeared, um, Google hit 4 trillion like it was nothing. And I believe we're going to have the same thing here happen with Amazon. I believe that Amazon will hit 4 trillion because everybody at the beginning, like I always say, the stock market is bipolar, and we love it. We must love it because of those changes in opinions and sentiment, they give us the opportunity to buy, right? We have to buy. That's why I always tell people we should be long-term looking, because when the market overreacts and when we see that the fundamentals have not changed, the long-term fundamentals of the company hasn't changed, we have to buy. And we have to hold through a little bit of pain. And listen, I did hold through a little bit of pain, really, really not that bad because my average was in the low 200s and the lowest it got to was like 190 something. And I was buying in the 190s too. Um, but now it's at 260 in the blink of an eye, right? Like that's how crazy the market is. And that volatility is what I love because it gives us great opportunity. And it's a great company. We're gonna see what it does. They have earnings coming out. Another company, for example, is Microsoft. We saw Microsoft dropped from 4 trillion down to in the $2 trillion, and now it went from like 350 to 420 or 430 in a blink of an eye, and nothing really changed fundamentally with the company, guys. That's what I want to help you guys understand is that the market overreacts and nothing changes in these companies. Like nothing changes. Sometimes something does change, and we should be aware of those things. But when you look at the company and you look at the earnings and you're trying to figure out why did the market overreact, and you can't explain it, that's your time to buy. Sometimes you'll get it at a 20% discount, 10% discount. You know, so we have to take that opportunity to buy. And this is gonna keep going, guys. This is gonna hit 300. Like this is gonna hit 300 easily. And like I said, by the end of the year, because of how optimistic the market gets, when you're on their market's good side, this will hit 4 trillion and no problem. Um, their business is just continuing to grow. It's just continuing to grow. And AWS, right now, AWS is $128 billion a year. And it will definitely it's gonna surpass all of these guys, right? It's gonna surpass their retail numbers. And retail, like I said, is a low margin business. They might only be making 3% of their retail, but their AWS subscription and their advertisement services, they're making close to, I believe, in operating margins or in their margins for that part of their business. I think it's closer to like 30% or something like that. Well, 35%, I think. I have to double check. But and like I said, AWS is growing at 20%. AWS will be Amazon's main revenue driver for the foreseeable future. And Amazon is a great company. That's all I can say, man. It's a great company, and I hope, like I said, I can't recommend anything because I'm not a financial advisor, but I definitely would, I'm buying it, right? And I would never, and I've tell a lot of my friends to buy it, and I never tell anybody to buy something that I'm not buying. So, thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe, comment, hit me if you guys want me to talk about a topic. I got that spy video coming out in the next couple of days. I'm just finishing my research on it, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Peace.